know the comment section is about to get heated. Let's get into it. Back at the table every single week for over 3 years straight to chat about the hottest funny books in the world. Comic books, expensive paper. Hit the like and slap the subscribe button. And my good friend Jem from Gem and Collectibles will hit you with number 10.
Your good buddy old pal Gem Mint bringing you number 10, how fitting. On the list, we have The Legend of Zelda Issue 1. It's the comic book series inspired by the video game, and with the success of the Mario movie, I wonder what Nintendo is thinking about this property.
Rumors are circulating that there's already an animation in production that's going to take us through the plains of Hyrule. Well, this book came out in 1990. It has a total census count of 387 slabs, and 101 of which are graded at a 9.8. The heights this book reached back in 2021 was $2,250. The most recent sale was only $1,400. This is a tough book in high grade. I purchased multiple copies of this over time thinking that they were near mint, only to find out upon opening them that the staples were rusty. You have to open this comic to double check because those staples are going to be a big hit if they have that rust inside.
We've got the no price variant in a CGC 9.4 that sold for $440, putting it just 4% above its 12-month average, but the 9.6 sold for $675, which is 9% higher.
Considering a 9.6 standard copy sold for $500 back in April, members are definitely valuing the no price variant. And we have a standard copy graded at a 9.2 that sold for $299 this past week. That's an increase of 33%. Whether it be Mario spec or the recent release of Tears of the Kingdom, the brand new Zelda game, it actually had me motivated not just to scout out for some Zelda comics, but I had to pick up a Game & Watch because I'm actually a huge fan of the NES Zelda 1.
I've always been a Link to the Past kind of guy myself. Moving on to number 9 on the list, we know this movie's coming and we know it's far away, but collectors are still picking up the first appearance of Swamp Thing in House of Secrets 92.
We've talked about a lot of James Gunn properties recently with the writer's strike delaying so much, but a lot of the focus has been on Superman Legacy, Creature Commandos. But let's not forget about the Waller Peacemaker spinoff. What about the Green Lanterns, Paradise Lost, or Brave and the Bold? House of Secrets, first appearance of Swamp Thing is spiking because Swamp Thing is indeed on the slate, but it's likely one of the last ones on the slate. And with the writer's strike delaying it even more, this may be a good time to hold off buying at least average-looking copies. High-grade copies are in a completely different realm of collectible with this comic book. When high-grade copies come up, people buy them because they don't come up often.
The last time we talked about this book on the Hot 10 was on February 6th, where it came in at number 7. There have been 88 more slabs added to the census since then, bringing that total up to 2,868. And like Tom said, in high grade, these get pretty pricey. Let's take a look at the 9.6. There are now 28 copies on the census, with that new one added since the last time this book came up.
Last time that book sold was September 2022. It hit $30,000. And considering that we're in a little bit of an adjustment period, when you compare it to the Heritage auction sale that took place back in 2021, it's only down by $3,600. Let's take a look at the 9.4, in which there are 2 brand new copies added to the census. The last GPA sale is also the record high, selling for $15,600, and that happened just this past April. Records are still being set regardless of the climate. The 9.2 saw 1 copy less. A copy was removed. Why would that happen, Jem?
It's likely somebody cracked that book, had it pressed and cleaned, and that could be one of our new 9.4s or that new 9.6.
The last 9.2 to sell publicly took place this month, selling for $8,500. The record high was set last year in December for only $500 more, $9,000. So when it's high grade, it's definitely a different game. Well, we have a 3.0 that sold for $757, up 12% over the recent 12-month average. The 8.0 sold for $3,120. That's 1% over.
And like Tom already mentioned, the 9.2 hit $8,500, which is 14% above that $7,475 12-month average.
What a climb for a book that investors know isn't going to have a payoff for quite some time. Looking at the list at number 8, we have possibly the first signs of who's going to portray the first Marvel family on screen. We have Fantastic Four issue number 25. This is the second appearance of Captain America, Steve Rogers, in the Silver Age, and the first solo battle between Bruce Banner the Hulk and the Thing, Ben Grimm.
And what's so cool about this book is it's that you get that first fight on the cover as well. They briefly fought in FF12 and they were both on the cover together, but now we're getting a Clash of the Titans, which we'll probably see in the MCU.
Last week, rumors were circulating aggressively on the internet suggesting that Ben Grimm was cast and that actor-rapper Daveed Diggs was tied to portray him. You know him from Hamilton. You know him as the voice of Sebastian in the Little Mermaid live-action movie, as well as the television show Snowpiercer. We've also heard rumors that Adam Driver may portray Mr. Fantastic, Sue Storm, rumors of Emma Stone, possibly Margot Robbie.
We're even hearing rumors of Mila Kunis portraying Sue Storm, which is much better than those Thing rumors that she debunked a while back. Now, she said she wasn't going to be in the film, but she said she knew who was, implying that they've already casted everyone.
Actor Paul Mescal is also rumored to portray Johnny Storm, and he's actually slated to be the lead actor in Gladiator 2 next to Denzel Washington and Pedro Pascal.
Which brings us to this week's sales. We're going to start with the CGC 5.0, selling for $480, 5% above its average, and the 6.5 selling for $818, which is 13% up.
And then we got a record-breaking sale, hot damn, an 8.5 last sold for $2,888 this past week for an increase of 7%, blowing past the $3,000 marker, selling for $3,100 for the first time in comic book history.
Which brings us to number 7 on the list with no new news, nothing to report on, but the fact that this book is still selling. Batman 181, the first appearance of Poison Ivy.
Utilize code TOM101 on the best comic app in existence. It's Key Collector Comics. This is where we source all of our comic data from, where we get our comic knowledge on. Every day, I use this app. I use it before Instagram, YouTube. It's some of the first things I check in the morning to find out what breaking news has happened, what key comics may be rising up in price, and what future keys may be coming out very soon. Support the show, better your comic hunt, and let's talk about Poison Ivy, because the 4.0 sold for $750 this past week for an increase of 12%. And the 4.5 can't even keep up because it also sold for $750, and that's an increase of 4%. The 5.0 sold for $955 for an increase of 10%, and the 5.5 sold for $1,100 for an increase of 17%.
And in case you haven't been following these videos, which you should be, hit the like, hit the subscribe. We talked about this book just 2 weeks ago on the Hot 10, where it came in at number 10, and there's 11 more slabs added to the census since then, bringing that total to just shy of 3,000 copies. We've got a brand new 9.8, making it just number 4 on the census, which we have a last GPA sale and record high of 90 grand back in November of 2020.
Holy smokes. This is like the second time we've seen a new 9.8 hit the census this year. And better yet, between 9.0 and 9.8, there have been no decreases in census count, which leads me to believe that this book, this high-grade book that's been sitting around since 1966, lasted all these years. This is a book that exists between 9.4 and 9.8 under 30 copies in existence. So when a high-grade copy comes out, similar to House of Secrets 92, it's a completely different ball game. Someone willing to spend this kind of money is less concerned about what's going to happen on the screen and more concerned about securing a comic book that they may never see again.
Yeah, I totally agree. With a big purchase like that, it's not so much outside media that's going to affect the book. We know Karen Gillan expressed interest in portraying the character, but that doesn't mean that James Gunn has something ready for it.
And we can't talk about Poison Ivy without recommending for like the 4th time to pick up the most recent ongoing Poison Ivy comic book by G. Willow Wilson. It's superb. And at the list at number 6, dare I say Lobo is back? Omega Men issue number 3.
Man, we were talking about Lobo every single week, literally for months, and it hasn't been on the Hot 10 since April 3rd when it came in at number 5. Now, there are 219 more slabs added to the census since then, bringing that total to 8,412. You're going to be able to find a copy of this book. There are 51 more 9.8s, bringing that total up to 2,806. Record high was set at 462 in December of 2022, but the last GPA sale was 370 just this month of this year.
Supply is clearly meeting the demand, but the book is hot as hell. 9.0 sold for $100, 19% over its recent 12-month average. 9.4 hit 120, 12% over that 12-month. 9.6 hit 185, an increase of 26%. And Jem, you just mentioned a 9.8 selling for 370. The heights a 9.8 reached over the last week was 375 for an increase of 12% when you compare it over the 12 months.
Now, some are trying to tie together a recent James Gunn tweet with Jason Momoa possibly portraying Lobo.
Ever since Jason Momoa got all excited about some role over at DC he was going to take on, members have been speculating it would be Lobo. This is the most current Superman news we have, and I want to know from the community in the comment section below, does this quote make you feel like Lobo is happening? For all of you asking, I would never comment on who is or isn't auditioning for a role. That's the actor's business only and isn't something I'd make public unless they did it first after the fact. Like Glenn Howerton or Zachary Levi having auditioned for Star-Lord and being top choices. For now, only one person has been cast in Superman Legacy, and it isn't any of the regular players in the Superman world. Curious.
Has Jason Momoa been cast as Lobo? Only time will tell. Moving on to number 5 on the list, we know Lady Gaga has been cast to play Harley Quinn in the new Joker sequel. We've got her first comic book appearance coming in at number 5, Batman Adventures 12.
First appearance of Harley Quinn in a standard size comic book. It's up across the board. 7.0 sold for $540. Increase of 31%. 9.2 sold for $750, an increase of 5%. The 9.4 is selling for $800. It's up 1%, but still selling strong. The 9.6 broke $1,000, selling for $1,065, also up 1%. And the 9.8 sold for $2,826, up 4%, but down mightily since the heights were reached back in 2021 of $4,551.
And this movie is not coming out until the end of next year, so still a lot of time to pick this one up. We talked about it just 2 weeks ago when it hit the Hot 10 coming in at number 4, and there have been 29 more slabs added to the census since then, including 2 more 9.8s.
This movie has already been filmed, so fortunately, it's unaffected by the writer's strike. But we do have some time, but with a lack of superhero movies coming out, at least in the early parts of next year, because of the delays, will we see more attention to Harley Quinn? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And Jem, you have a crazy giveaway happening very soon on Whatnot.
That's right. It should be the day after this video comes out, but either way, it's Sunday, May 28th, and you guys know I like to unbox statues, so I figured we'd give one away, and we're giving away the Captain America premium format by Sideshow.
I recently gave away an ASM 300 newsstand. It was a beauty, worth about $1,000. You don't even have to buy something on Whatnot to qualify to enter. Links to both of our Whatnot profiles are in the description below.
As we cruise on to number 4 on the list, you knew it was coming somewhere. We've got Star Wars Heir to the Empire 1, the first appearance of Grand Admiral Thrawn.
I was just chatting about this book with Fire Guy Ryan, who's a big Grand Admiral Thrawn nerd, and a point was brought up. What if he's not utilized as much in Ahsoka Tano? I mean, there's going to be a large focus on Ezra and Sabine Wren, and it's very likely that he may appear similar to how Darth Vader appeared in the Obi-Wan show. Not very often. We may see a little bit of dips when we expect to see hikes, especially considering he's destined for the big screen.
I actually think it's better for the book, giving it a little bit more time to breathe. We're down 2 spots from where we were last week, though, when it came in at number 2 on the Hot 10, and there are 19 more slabs added to the census since then, bringing that total up to 2,678, which gives us 4 new 9.0s, 3 more 9.2s, 4 more 9.4s, 3 more 9.6s, and 2 more 9.8s.
A newsstand 8.0 copy sold for $200 for an increase of 16%. Then we have the standard direct market copy 9.0 selling for $168, an increase of 19%. 9.2 hit $187 for an increase of 18%. And the 9.8 clocked in a $1,130 sale, which is an increase of 9%. But this book could have been secured for under $1,000 for most of the year. In fact, the record highs this book hit was back in 2021. For $2,300, this book is down by half.
The other big Star Wars book right now is number 3 on the list, Star Wars The Clone Wars Issue 1, the first appearance of Ahsoka Tano, and it's also down by half.
And that happened during the comic boom, and this book may be a sleeper that could explode. A lot of faith in Rosario Dawson. This book was printed to 24,500, so it's fairly low print and very difficult to secure in high grade. The 9.4 sold for 1,029, an increase of 20% when you look over the last 12 months. The 9.6 sold for 1,150, that's an increase of 4%, and the 9.8 sold for $2,100 for an increase of 5%, but like Jem said, it's down by half. Its record high was reached back in 2021 where it sold for $3,990.
And we also had a record-breaking sale in the lower grades. The last time we had a CGC 4.0 break record, it sold for $400 back in 2021. And it's up 17%, now selling for $469.
Big shout out to our homie Comic Man Andy over on Instagram, who we actually got to meet last year at C2E2. He recently went to Motor City Comic Con in Michigan and had both of the voice actors who portrayed Anakin, well, Darth Vader, as well as Ahsoka Tano in the Rebels series sign his copy of Clone Wars #1. Good luck on the grade. I know it was witnessed and is headed to Sarasota to be graded by the CGC. Looking at the list now at number 2. Holy smokes, we have Wolverine #1, we have Deadpool news, and a lot of heat on Frank Miller art.
Now, Rob Liefeld did recently just tweet that this movie is way more of a Wolverine movie, assuming he's referring to Deadpool 3, but that would have been after all these sales. So it could be that Frank Miller Wolverine 1 variant that's got everybody hyped again.
I want to know the community's thoughts in the comment section below, because this is very polarizing, as well as your thoughts, Jem. Because the more I look at this recent Wolverine variant that has been so critically panned by the community at large, the more I kind of understand at least what direction he was going. It seems abstract, it seems emotional, it seems different, unique, and I think that's what he was after.
When I saw you post this on Instagram asking the community what they thought about it, immediately I appreciated the art in it. I'm like, yo, this reminds me of Picasso, who was a great painter, but it wasn't until he started doing abstract paintings that he really became popular.
It's definitely different than other Frank Miller pieces, but it's also kind of similar to some of the new things he's trying. I mean, we saw a Thing rendition that looked very different as well. Well, we have Wolverine 1 on the list for good reason. Outside of the Deadpool 3 spec, outside of the conversations surrounding the quality and interpretation of Frank Miller's art, we also have the Frank Miller signing having taken place, and a ton of graded and signed copies have been flooded onto the marketplace. So when supply goes up, the demand goes up. We're seeing a tremendous amount of increase in copies sold across the board in multiple grades.
All of these books are way up over their 12-month averages. The 7.5 selling for $120, 18% up. The 8.0 is 32% up, selling for $145. The 9.0 sold for $180, which is 22% higher, and the 9.2 sold for $220, which is 38% more.
The 9.4 can barely keep up, sold for $228 this past week for an increase of 18%, and the 9.8 hit $780, which is up 9%. The last sale took place in May for $658, so you can be patient and get this book for under $700 right now. The heights it reached was back in 2021, where it sold for $1,365. Don't sleep on this book. This is a major Logan key. It's a classic cover, and I think it's got room to grow.
Now, whether or not you like this new Wolverine piece by Frank Miller, you can't deny that he gave us some of the best Wolverine covers of all time in this mini-series, and issue 1 has a 182% increase in copies sold this week over last.
Make sure to join our giveaways that we do on the show. We do them exclusively through our newsletter. You can sign up via ComicTom101.com. No purchase necessary. I won't spam you. All you have to do is be signed up to our newsletter, and that way we can contact you if you win. And this month we're giving away Amazing Spider-Man 41 5.0, first appearance of the Rhino. Hit the like, slap the subscribe button, and at the list, the #1 hottest book in the world is the first appearance of Rocket Raccoon in a standard size comic book. Incredible Hulk 271.
It's also the first appearance of Lila and Walrus, who is basically Teefs in the movie. Will Rocket lead this new Guardians of the Galaxy team that we saw in the post-credit scene, or do we just have a great send-off to the character in this movie? We know Star-Lord will return, but we don't really know if Guardians will.
And we're not going to find out for quite some time, probably the next Avengers film. So I want to know from the community, is this a time to buy this comic? Because it is creeping up. However, I think we may see some dips. You may want to hold out. The 8.0 sold for $195 over the last week for an increase of 12%. The 9.0 sold for $261, an increase of 13%. The 9.2 sold for $260 for an increase of 3%. And the 9.6 sold for $497. That's an increase of 33%.
But check out these 9.8s. The 9.8 standard edition sold for $1,150, which is 3% above its 12-month average, but the newsstand had a monster record-breaking sale. We haven't seen it sell since March when it went for $1,500, and it's up 27% now with an all-new record-breaking sale of $1,899.
Hot damn, comic fam. Record-breaking sales. It feels like it's 2020 again. Hit the like, slap the subscribe button, and as always,
geek responsibly and stay minty fresh.
Enough said. The Bags and Boards podcast is officially back. You can listen to it on SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, or iTunes. We talk about comic collecting, reading books. We go through like collection finds, stories, and it features the Golden Age Guru and Fire Guy Ryan. Podcast 73 was released yesterday. We talk about some of the biggest finds from our 350,000 comic book collection purchase, a ton of Silver Age books, and this selling Superman documentary that the Golden Age Guru was featured in. Click it, check it out. We made it for you. And then also have a great Memorial Day weekend. Peace.